For our next Jiu-Jitsu Con talk, we have Professor Fabio Gurgel. Fabio is a 4-time world champion, a member of the IBJJF Hall of Fame. As a competitor, coach, and entrepreneur, he's helped shape generations of champions and leaders in our community. Today, he's here to share insights from his new book, Unshakeable, Principles of Jiu-Jitsu Applied to Life and Business. In it, Fabio explains how the lessons he learned through Jiu-Jitsu can help us thrive not just in competition, but in every aspect of life. After the talk, Fabio will be signing copies of the book. Thanks, Fabio, for being here.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So let's start with the beginning. When did you first have the idea for Unshakeable? And was there a moment when you said that I have to write this book?
I would say that the seed was planted a long time ago when I started teaching. Teaching is about sharing what you know, right? And with the time, I start competing and achieve some important things in Jiu-Jitsu. And I see my students changing through Jiu-Jitsu. And of course, over time, people start talking, hey, you need to write a book one day. You need to start one book one day. But it's always hard to decide when when you should do this move, because of course, my story is still going on, right? So where are you gonna draw the line to say, now I'm gonna start talking about my story? But then I had a very, very nice call from one of the most important publishers in Brazil, inviting me to write a book, I said, well, yeah, this is something that people have been talking about for a while, and so maybe it's the time, but what are you gonna talk about? And of course, the first hint was, okay, let's do a biography. Let's talk about what you have done, since you start Jiu-Jitsu. But then I say, I think we should go further than this. So instead of just talking about my story, I want to talk about what Jiu-Jitsu can do for the other people, right? What principles we have in Jiu-Jitsu that can really help people to live a better life. And then I start, writing my book, and it took like 6 to 9 months writing almost every day. And that has been an incredible journey so far.
So I know you're an avid reader. You mentioned some of the books that you read in your own book. So can you talk about your love of reading and how that maybe contributed to you wanting to be an author?
Yeah, there's a say that leaders are readers, right? And I think I have been watching my parents read books since I was a very small child. And so books are, in my life since the very beginning. But I would say that in the last 10 years, I really understood that that's the best way for you to get any kind of knowledge. Because I think when you start reading, you can go far beyond your own experiences, right? You can really talk with people that live incredible lives, because that's the books that we're gonna search for, right? And how can you have a talk? Imagine that you can bring someone to have a coffee, and you can choose Aristotle to have a chat, So that's what reading is about, getting knowledge for people that have done many incredible things in life, And of course, as much as you read, more you understand the world, more you understand how to have a good life. I think that's the main goal for everybody, every humankind.
So let's get into the contents of the book. Earlier in the book, you shared a conversation you had with your father, and you told him you want to do jiu-jitsu for life, for your career. And he said if you're going to do that, you're going to have to work really hard, and you're going to have to find a way to stand out. So can you talk about that conversation and the impact it had on you throughout the rest of your journey?
Yeah, this conversation was very important for me. It's very impactful. I was 15 years old, and my father was talking with my brother. My brother is almost 4 years older than me. And he, in that time, he got inside the university. He was studying engineer. And my father and him, they were talking about, the market and what he would do for a living. And all of a sudden, my father turned to me and said, "Hey, what about you? What are you gonna do when you grow up?" And I said, "Jiu-Jitsu," right away. And he laughed and said, "No, I'm talking about work, And said, "Yeah, me too, I want to do Jiu-Jitsu for a living." And he asked me two things. The first was, "You think you can be good?" Because I believe Jiu-Jitsu is very small market, and you need to be really good in order to get a spot, And I said, "Yeah, I think I can be good, And he said, "Okay, once that you can be good, can you be different? Because what people are doing in Jiu-Jitsu probably doesn't make you a good living, at least from his standpoint, right?" I had a different view because I used to see how Jacaré was living that time, and I just love that style, That lifestyle for me is great. But of course, my father was looking further than just having a nice life. And yeah, so then I grew up with those messages in my mind. The first, that I need to really dedicate myself in order to be good. And the second, that I need to look from different markets to bring something new to the Jiu-Jitsu community, because what people were doing was not enough. And so I start looking for, generations above mine and say, what these guys are doing, And suddenly they disappear, So the champions that when I was blue belt, I was looking up to, those guys were not doing Jiu-Jitsu anymore at some point. I say, wow, so maybe there is something missing. That's why they need to change Jiu-Jitsu for other things in order to have a good living. So that was the second part. You gotta make it different, So that's the message I had from my father from that conversation that really helped me to be what I am today.
So early in your jiu-jitsu journey, competition was a huge focus. Can you talk about how the training and preparation for competition helped pretty much help you build that unshakable mindset that you talk about?
I think competition is the ultimate lab in how you can develop virtues, So there's so many aspects in the competition that you should learn, how to be resilient, how to face defeat for you, no matter what you do, So in that sense, I think competition was one of the most important things I have done, because I really live what Jiu-Jitsu has to offer, And yeah, I think everybody should compete at least once, once in a lifetime, because you need to be real, and competition put you exactly in that spot, There is no fake in competition. You have to be yourself and deal with that.
So in chapter 16 of the book, you had a really interesting insight. You said that although you believe you have to be dedicated to something to achieve greatness, you disagree with hyper-focusing on one thing. So can you talk a little bit about that point and what that really did to shape your career?
Yes, I think that dedication is very important, but dedication is not obsession. And I think life has different dimensions. Of course, being a champion is a very important thing, but being a good man is more important. Taking care of your family is more important, right? So sometimes when you hyper-focus on something, you just unbalance important things in life. I'm not saying that you shouldn't dedicate yourself in order to accomplish things. You need to. but you cannot be hyper-focused. And it's that theory of 10,000 hours in order to be good in something, right? So you need to dedicate yourself and put 10,000 hours. Yeah, maybe, but if you just know one thing, imagine, okay, the only thing you know is jiu-jitsu. You are a very good athlete, incredible competitor. But what are you gonna do in 10 years? Because you won't be that good anymore. So you need to prepare yourself for the transitions, and the way to do that is try to understand life in a much broader way. So I like to get information from different aspects, different dimensions of life, for sure.
You shared a really awesome insight in the book as well about the shift in jiu-jitsu from being more accommodating to practitioners of all different backgrounds, not just to the guys who were really tough or the guys who wanted to compete. So has it been gratifying for you to see other jiu-jitsu academies adopt that mindset and to see jiu-jitsu grow through that mindset?
Oh yeah, I think that's one of the joys of my life, to be honest. You know, see where jiu-jitsu is nowadays and how many people we are touching in a way that, you know, I really believe that jiu-jitsu is the best tool to develop virtues. And when I say develop virtues, that's the most important thing in life. If you wanna get a good life, you need to be, you know, you have to work on at least those 4 virtues: courage, temperance, justice, wisdom. You need to work on those pillars in order to have a good life. And jiu-jitsu is the best tool, because you can have all of that together with incredible community and doing what is good for your body, for your health. And I see jiu-jitsu is reaching a new point when people are really understanding that jiu-jitsu is the tool people needs to, you know, in order to live better.
You mentioned in the book several times that your life had different phases. You went from competitor to coach to entrepreneur. Can you talk about those phases and how having that mindset to have those different phases of your life helps contribute to your fulfillment as a competitor and a coach and entrepreneur?
Yeah, we go back to the previous question when you talk a little bit about transitions, right? So let's say you are an incredible athlete. You are a very good competitor. You win all the tournaments. But you know, at least you should know, that your career as an athlete has an end. It is not that far away, right? Because you are using your performance years to compete, and that's fine, but what are you gonna do next? So my point was always, how can I stay in jiu-jitsu? How can I keep doing jiu-jitsu for the rest of my life as a way of living? Not just because I like jiu-jitsu and I want to do jiu-jitsu. How can I really live off jiu-jitsu? So I knew that my competition time would be gone soon. So I need to become a good instructor. So since I was 15 years old, I was helping my professor to teach. And so I was kind of ready when my time came to switch and become a full-time professor. But I knew that being a professor, because I had seen so many people that quit jiu-jitsu after they become professors because they couldn't make a living. I say, okay, I need to be a good professor, of course, but I need to know how to manage my school. Because if my school is not profitable, how can I support my family? How can I provide to my people? I need to make that business profitable. So I need to go back and start studying how to manage the school, which was hard for me in that point, because we didn't know any benchmark in jiu-jitsu. There was nobody doing that thing right? So I went back to the white belt and started studying to become a good school manager. So I see that my academy was, doing well and say, okay, now how can I share that? How can I share that with the Jiu-Jitsu community? How can I share that in order to grow Alliance? How can we reach more people? So the transitions are an obligation. People need to do that at some point in life. You have two choices. You can go all the way in what we're doing and then see what's there for you, or you can see ahead and say, I know that my time as a competitor is going to end. Let me prepare for the next stage. And the same thing with the professor, and the same thing with the manager, and the same thing with the leader of the group, and the same thing. So the transitions will keep coming. And we need to absorb more knowledge in order to make those transitions smoothly.
Service has been a really important pillar in your life and your career. Can you talk about the importance of service and how that contributed to your fulfillment throughout your journey?
Absolutely. I think service is equal to meaning. When you search for meaning in your life, doesn't matter what you accomplish. You can be the badass champion, but if you don't align what is good for you with what's good for the people, you won't find meaning in life. So meaning is always related with something that you do for the others. And that's totally aligned with being a instructor, with being, the source of the knowledge. So you are passing that knowledge to your students, you make them better, you become better, and that's the alignment you should look for. There's a very interesting author that I like, it's called Arthur Brooks. He's a Harvard professor, and he teaches happiness. And he divides happiness in 3 pillars. The first one is satisfaction. How can we do hard things in order to get this satisfaction back, the reward for what you do? And then there's enjoyment, is the second pillar. Enjoyment is not any kind of pleasure, but it's the things that really touch you. It's like the moments that you share with your family, with your friends, those important moments that worth the world for you. And the third was meaning. And meaning is divided in family and friends and work. And what you do in your work is do good for the people. So it's going back to the question, is the service. How can you serve people in order to you to be happy? So that's what I do. I was very lucky because I found Jiu-Jitsu, and I bet in Jiu-Jitsu that wasn't lucky, right? I bet in Jiu-Jitsu for life. And what I found was an incredible tool, as I said, an incredible community, 1,000 of friends, and a good life. So I couldn't be happier doing any other thing.
So you've coached several world champions, but now through your book, you're also mentoring and kind of coaching a lot of people who are reading it that you've never met. So what does it mean to you to have that type of impact on the readers of the book?
I think the idea of the book is kind of, okay, it's time for me to give my best back to Jiu-Jitsu. And it's not that, I'm doing this just in the book. I think everything that I do, I put Jiu-Jitsu first. I always look to what's going to be good for me, but also going to impact the community. And I have been doing this for a while, and it just turned out really well. Every time I share good practice and good things that I do, I just multiply my success. And that's how I believe that things should be done. So I think Unshakeable is another opportunity for me to share what I learned in Jiu-Jitsu. I hope that book is going to be a companion for the people that can go back and forth to the book every time they need, you know. And I think there's important lessons that I learned through my time in Jiu-Jitsu that I hope you guys can enjoy.
So now that you've gone through the process of writing the book and gotten so much good feedback, do you have plans for writing a second or third book? And if so, do you have any topics in mind already?
You know that the Unshakeable journey has been, as I said, amazing. You know, I discovered so many things writing a book that I get passionate about it, you know, and for sure, I'm gonna keep writing. I already have a second book in mind. I'm writing some text on my blog about, you know, how the timeless ideas remain, you know, alive in Jiu-Jitsu, you know. So I start connect those ideas that we learn on the mats, that I learn on the mats, that I live on the mats with the great philosophers, not just for the past, but also for good thinkers from our time, you know. So I read ideas from Jordan Peterson, for example, with Jiu-Jitsu, the same way that I brought Aristotle to see, you know, how can you develop virtues through Jiu-Jitsu. We talk about St. Augustine and how you can, you know, get lessons that are the same lessons that people has been talking, you know, for the time. And something that are really important for us to, you know, to bring back. And I think for Jiu-Jitsu people that maybe they are too far away from philosophy, for example, because they never thought about it, you know. So maybe having someone from Jiu-Jitsu bringing those ideas gonna really open up, you know, the minds of Jiu-Jitsu to, again, to have a better life. So yes, I will keep writing.
Well, thank you so much for writing this book. It was an amazing book. I hope everyone who's read it has enjoyed it as much as I have. And we can't wait for the next ones. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Danny. We're going to write some books right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys want a copy of the book, they're available on the side of the stage. Fabio's now going to sign some
Thank you very much, guys.
So, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Always appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Very good.